Will HDB prices crash in 2026? The last time that happened, it went on a 7-year decline. It started in 2013 and was only saved by the supply shocks during the pandemic. Now with supply coming back up, are we about to see HDB prices enter into a multi-year decline again? In this video, I'm going to give my predictions on the prices and volumes of the HDB market entering 2026. And more importantly, what all this means for you. An important part about predicting the future is to analyze and understand history. So now let's take a look back into 2013 to find out what happened. In the early to late 2000s, there was a lot of unhappiness brewing in the HDB market. There was a lack of supply in both resale and BTO. This led to extremely high COVs, hence making it very difficult for anyone to buy anything, especially first-timers. Now, this all accumulated in the electoral losses in GE 2011. So the government knew they had to do something about it, and they introduced 4 key changes. The first of which was supply. They ramped up BTO supply significantly. For that, we can borrow the data points from the MOP supply chart, which is basically a resultant data point for BTO supply. So in the years between 2009 to 2014, which are BTO launches from the early 2000s to the late 2000s, right, they average only about 5,000 units every year. Fast forward, the MOP numbers between 2015 all the way to 2020 quadrupled to an average of 20,000 per year. The second and third points focuses on demand, and the second point is the introduction of the mortgage servicing ratio. What that did is to effectively halve the amount of loan you can take should you elect to buy HDBs or subsidized housing compared to private properties. And the third point is the introduction of a 3 years wait-up period before a new PR family can purchase a HDB resale flat. Now, if you layer points 2 and 3 together, put yourself in the shoes of one of these brand new PR families, right? You've been renting for many years and you have finally got your PR status and you can purchase a property. Now, you have 2 options. Option number 1 is to continue renting for 3 years before purchasing a HDB resale flat at, say, a budget of $500,000 because of MSR. The alternative is to purchase a private property immediately with a budget of, say, $1 million because of total debt servicing ratio. Which would you pick? The end result is that a lot of these PRs decided to just purchase a private property. Some of these older, more affordable OCR condominiums, places like North Oaks in Woodlands, the Eden in Tampines, Melville Park in Simei, and that drew a lot of demand out from the HDB resale market. Point number 4 is the complete overhaul of the HDB resale procedures. Prior to 2014, it was the sellers who first did their valuations prior to putting their units up for sale. And it's from there that they determine how much cash over that valuation they want to call for, be it $50,000, $100,000, $200,000. The problem with that system is that it puts the first-timers at a significant disadvantage because they lack the cash to compete with other buyers. So in 2014, HDB changed all of that. So today, buyers and sellers have to first agree on the price, and after that, the buyers are the ones that go and do the valuations. Now, at least this gives the buyers a decision on how much COV they want to pay. If the subsequent valuation comes up too low, they can decide to then just forfeit their option fee and not pay the COV. And with that change, COV numbers came off significantly. Within the periods of 2015 to 2020, if you're looking at a unit, especially in the outskirts, you hardly hear of COV anymore. So it was these 4 main factors that really brought down HDB prices for the 7 years leading up to the pandemic. Now, the interesting question is, are these 4 factors still around?
Yes, 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 yes.
And before I jump into my 2026 predictions, if you haven't yet caught our 2025 review, where we build on a lot of our predictions for 2026 from, do check them out either in the description or somewhere in this video. So let's start off by first looking at some fundamental data points, specifically supply data points. And I'm going to start off first by looking at MOP data. So in the year 2025, we only had 8,000 MOP flats, and that's the lowest number since 2014. Now, in 2026, that number is going to come up a good 68% to approximately 13,500, an increase of about 5,500 units. Now, on the BTO front, HDB launched about 19,700 BTOs in 2025. While the exact number for 2026 has yet to be released, estimates range around 17,600. That is a reduction of about 2,000 units. Now, the next data point is rarely analyzed or publicized, and that is the sale of balance flats numbers. Here's the interesting thing. In 2024, that number stood at about 1,588. In 2025, that number came up almost 6.5 times to 10,252. So our MOP numbers came down by about 5,000 from 13,000 in 2024 to 8,000 in 2025. And bearing in mind, not all of these 5,000 would have gone into the resale market. Anyway, SBF came in to top up the supply by 8,500 units, resulting in the net gain in supply for the market. So while there's no way to predict the SBF supply for 2026, within the first exercise, they have already launched 3,000 units. So this is going to be more than 2024, but likely less than what we're going to see in 2025. Now, there's one other point that might impact HDB resale supply and eventually prices. Let's take a look. Now, this chart charts the movements between the URA Private Property Price Index against the HDB Resale Price Index. Notice in recent years, these two charts have basically been charting in the same direction, which is why I want to bring your attention to this period between 2017 all the way up to the pandemic. Okay, notice how private prices were going up while HDB prices were coming down. Now, put your shoes in a HDB upgrader. If you see charts like that, how would you feel? Luckily for everyone, I was in the market at that point in time. Basically, that was where I first started. And the conversations then were very different from where they are today. During that period of time, because HDB upgraders, they know what to expect. Once they hit their TOP, they have to sell their house. Else, number one, their prices will continue going down, while the private unit they were hoping to buy, the prices will continue to go up. Now, this results in something of what I call a reverse FOMO. They are in a rush to sell off their flats, else they cannot afford to upgrade, or they may potentially be priced out of the upgrade. Now, this causes a vicious cycle of vastly and quickly reducing HDB resale prices in those markets. And with interest rates likely to remain low or go even lower, and the widening of the gap between private and HDB prices, this will trigger a lot more HDB upgraders, not just the ones that hit their MOP this year, but also those that hit their MOP in recent years to start thinking about taking action. And if they do, they're going to put their house on the resale market, hence increasing resale supply. But it's not all doom and gloom for the HDB resale market. There's a silver lining in all of this. Because if prices were to remain stagnant or come off, it would then give the government reason to lift that 15 months wait-out period. What was introduced in 2022 as a temporary measure stayed around for 3 years because prices just refused to come down. But the minister have given clues that they are well prepared to remove that should prices stabilize. And we know for a fact there's a good number of private property owners that's waiting to right size back to a HDB by just putting off those plans simply because of this 15 months wait-out period. So it's unlikely that we'll see the sharp and prolonged drop like the one we've seen in 2013. On the other hand, it's also unlikely that there will be a sharp increase in prices should the government choose to remove the 15 months wait-out period. Because it just sounds silly to me for the government to unwind all the hard work that they have done for the last 3 years by just lifting it when the market is not ready. So what I suspect they'll do is to perhaps lift this off in a staggered manner, either breaking it down by age groups or by location. For example, they can look at places like Tampines, Sengkang, Punggol, where prices have stabilized and lift the measures over there while keeping the measures in place for popular areas like Bishan, Toa Payoh, Tanjong Pagar. And with that, my predictions is that the HDB market is basically going to be trending sideways for 2026. If prices were to go up, it wouldn't go up by more than 2 or 3%. If it were to go down, it shouldn't go down by more than 1 to 2%. Resale volumes are unlikely to come off with the reduction in sale of balance flats as well as BTO flats, and also an increase in MOP flats. So I predict that it will range between not more than 2024 and perhaps more than what we saw in 2025. So what does all this mean for you if you are a HDB flat owner, especially if you are looking to sell? The fact is that sales are going to take a longer time than before because unfortunately, the market is sentiment driven, and if the headlines continuously say that prices are stagnant, volumes are coming off, the buyers will start thinking, acting, and offering accordingly. So my recommendation is to lock in your plan, come to a decision, and price your flats competitively. You cannot assume that the market is at where it's at in 2024. It's likely to move sideways or downwards, really depending on where your property is at. You especially have to pay attention if your property is located close to all these projects that is hitting its MOP in 2026. If you're a HDB upgrader, I strongly urge you to take action sooner rather than later, because with interest rates at where they are at, I strongly believe that the price gap between HDB and private prices will continue to widen. And if you're interested to find out my predictions on where the private market is headed in 2026, don't forget to like and subscribe as that video is coming right up.